Bienvenue au Réverbère. Exceptionnellement, l'entretien d'aujourd'hui se déroulera en anglais. Nous vous invitons également à vous plonger dans l'ensemble de nos épisodes présentés en français. Bonne écoute! Our work at INM is driven by the belief that citizen participation strengthens democracy. However, we still observe that consultation and decision-making are sometimes inaccessible to several portions of the population. Are young people particularly excluded from these processes? While there are some encouraging examples of young parliamentarians playing significant roles as members of government or parliamentary commissions, only 2.6% of parliamentarians across the world are under 30 years old. And of this figure, only about 30% are young women. When you think about it, isn't it surprising that the young are so underrepresented in political, social, and business decision-making systems? Especially considering that, according to the United Nations, individuals under 30 represent half of the world's population. Beyond depriving ourselves of their expertise and experience, is that fair or even equitable? While numerous actors are engaged in helping young people equip themselves and claim the space they deserve, and various initiatives are directed towards them, does success also lie in our society's ability to offer diverse role models and meaningful opportunities? For this episode, we will delve into youth leadership and how One Young World contributes to its development in its own unique way. Their annual summit serves as a gathering point for young leaders from over 190 countries and 250 organizations, providing them with the opportunity to enhance their knowledge, network, and draw inspiration. Dubbed by Vice as the world's and most impactful youth leadership summit, the upcoming edition will take place in Montreal this September. I'm Juan Giraldo, and you're listening to Le Réverbère, the podcast of the Institut du Nouveau Monde. We're currently at the Palais des Congrès de Montréal, and today I have the pleasure of welcoming David Mora, ambassador of the One Young World organization. So welcome, David. Thank you for accepting our invitation to be here with us. So you're one of the ambassadors of One Young World, and you've been the coordinating ambassador for Canada until recently. You're originally from Mexico, but you've embraced Canada as your second home since 2018. And you're currently serving as Global Brand Strategy Lead at BRP in Montreal. Your journey with this company began in 2015, where you assumed a pivotal role in the communications and corporate social responsibility area in Mexico. Your commitment to fostering robust connections with communities and the environment is evident through your involvement in various social initiatives. This includes spearheading sustainable and entrepreneurial projects in marginalized communities in Querétaro, in Mexico. And you've been collaborating closely with government bodies, universities, enterprises, and played a key role in the creation of enduring and sustainable projects. Your interests span diverse areas, from women's empowerment to cutting-edge technologies. Your association with One Young World began with your attendance at the Global Summit in London in 2019, then Munich in 2021, Manchester in 2022, which, as we noticed, you're wearing the T-shirt, which is awesome. Last year, the Belfast Summit. And since 2020, you joined the One Young World team as the coordinating ambassador for Canada. So could you explain what exactly is One Young World? What is its goal, its mission, and for you personally, how did you start getting involved with the organization?
Sure. Well, first things first, thank you so much for the invitation, and thank you so much for having me here. Thank you for explaining everything about my biography. I think sometimes when I listen to it, it's like, oh my gosh, have I done all of these things? But in the end, One Young World represents a lot of what leadership means, what young leadership means. For sure, I have my corporate job every single day. I go to work and I work from 9 to 5. But after that, I'm always concerned about being like a role model. I'm concerned about like permeating leadership or permeating my leadership outside my work. Mm-hmm. So when One Young World appeared in my life, it was because BRP, the company I work for, opened this call to action to attend the summit in London. So they sent a court in 2019, and I was proudly selected. And I was very, very happy to attend the summit because the summit of One Young World, well, first things first, is not only a summit. One Young World is a community of young leaders. We do a summit every single year, yes, but the purpose, the objective of One Young World is to create a community of young leadership with people from all over the world, with different backgrounds, entrepreneurs, people working in government, people working in companies like myself, but that have this notion of leadership and this notion of trying to change the world. Mm-hmm. That is the final purpose of One Young World. Sometimes people believe that, One Young World is the summit. It's not only about the summit. Right. And that's why after the summit happens, you become an ambassador. So I became an ambassador in 2019 after the London summit. And you have a lot of opportunities to keep connected with the organization, to begin building this community. The call to action to become coordinating ambassador for Canada was open in 2020. I raised my hand. My mom always tells me that I raise my hand to a lot of things, but I think it's my nature to be involved in a lot of things. And I got selected, proudly selected. At the very beginning, I thought probably because, I'm not Canadian, or probably because I'm representing both nations, both Canada and Mexico, I won't be selected. But I think for One Young World, it's even more valuable to have that diversity, to have that different, to have multiple cultures embodied into the leadership that are part of One Young World. So since 2020 until now, I've been involved with the organization, and I have done quite a lot of things, like trying to organize events with the ambassador community, welcome the new delegates that are going to every single summit, getting in touch with our government, with our with companies, etc., to kind of create synergies. And since then, I've been super happy to collaborate with them. And just, this is probably my last interview as coordinating ambassador for One Young World, because this keeps evolving. The journey at One Young World keeps evolving. Right. And it was after 4 years, it was time for someone fresh to come and to join the One Young World family in Canada as a coordinating ambassador. Mm-hmm. So I'm very, very happy to say that I'm closing this chapter, but that I'm going to be involved for the summit in 2020, with this year in 2024. Yeah. That is here in Montreal. Maybe not as coordinating ambassador, but as part of the One Young World community as well.
Excellent. So you've mentioned your appreciation for the community that One Young World has provided to you, and I was wondering, beyond that, what do you think is the appeal of One Young World when we compare it to other global youth initiatives? There's the Global Youth Summit, Youth Speak Forum. There's other local, smaller scale initiatives. We have some in Montreal as well. Sure. What do you think is the appeal of One Young World?
I don't believe that we need to talk about differences or what, if one summit is better or bigger or whatever. Yeah. No. In the end, the objective of One Young World is to create change, is to drive change. Is for us leaders of the world to have a place to speak and to gather and raise our voice, and try to create synergies to make networking, etc., which is something that also a lot of summits do around the globe. Just to give you context, I attended in 2014 the Young Entrepreneurs Alliance Summit in Australia. Mm-hmm. And for sure, it was another opportunity to kind of raise my voice and to kind of create the synergies and do a lot of stuff. but we work with each other, not against each other.
Right.
So the small summits that happen locally, regionally, in other parts of the world, if there are other big summits as well, like a lot of us, the same people that are part of One Young World, we attend those summits.
Right.
And vice versa. We are here and there. But because probably we are trying to find much more places to kind of gather, to raise our voices, to work together, to create network. I think if I may say some difference of One Young World among other summits or organizations is that after the Olympic Games, One Young World is the only organization that has representation of every single country of the world. It's very, very big. Okay. So I do believe that would be probably one of the differences. But again, like we work with each other.
So you're mentioning community, you're driving change, networking, and I'm curious about in like your personal experience of your collaborations in One Young World. How has these events like impacted your personal and professional journey?
Once you attend the One Young World Summit, your life changes. It's personally speaking. Well, first things first. If you attend the summit, you have to be ready to cry, to learn a lot, to kind of experience the experiences of other people with your own eyes, ears, and skin. It's very personal, the summit. The cases that we talk about, the experiences that are being shared, the topics are really the pressing topics that are happening every single day in every single part of the world. So having that perspective of what is happening outside your comfort zone, outside your house or your city, where we live like pretty well, it really makes you feel first powerless, but it also gives you that energy to drive the change, because that feeling of probably not doing enough will make you come back home and say, okay, it's time to drive change. It's time to do something else. So, and I think like since I was like younger, I was trying to find these opportunities to kind of do something else for my community, to drive change in different ways. And that's the open door that One Young World has with you. And when you create, or after a summit, when you create your networks, when you already come back home and say, okay, I added 30 people on my LinkedIn, I have the emails of this and this organizations, is when you are able to begin driving change. Also, if you have personal projects, probably the person that you met at the dinner last day is the one that could become your contact for that project, because probably you're doing things that are pretty similar. So networking is key aspect during that summit. But again, like once you attend, your personal life really, really changes. And I have seen people contacting me after the summit saying like, hey, David, what do I do with all of this information? You know, like what is that I can create and change? So yeah, that's pretty rewarding.
And I mean, we've been talking about the summits, and I do think that the summits, they're really like the highlight of the organization of One Young World. They're like kind of the centerpiece. And so the last summit that took place in Belfast, I was wondering if you could actually share some of the standout moments, because it might be a bit fresher in your memory compared to the other ones. What were the standout moments and the key takeaways from that specific summit? So
the summit of Belfast was pretty interesting because it had place in a city that was in conflict a couple of years ago. It's a city that, if I may tell you, like it surprised me when I arrived to Belfast. I was like, this city is beautiful. Like people have really put a lot of efforts to bring their city into a different level. So the summit had this specific topic of addressing how was the peace agreement in Northern Ireland happening, and how this agreement was an example for other peace agreements around the globe, like in Colombia, for example. So President Santos actually was in the summit, and he gave a speech about the peace in Colombia, which, to be honest, like me being Mexican, it's very close to my heart because of the Latin American problems that sometimes happen or that are happening with war. So that was like the masterpiece of the summit. Right. That was the main topic, and it was pretty interesting to see how the Northern Ireland government approached this peace agreement. The other topic that I think it was pretty interesting was about mental health. Some again, like topics came pretty different, like from war to mental health. But again, these are the problems that are happening every single day and that we have to address as leaders. And mental health, it's surrounded by a lot of taboos, by a lot of misconception. People think that if you talk about mental health, it's because you're crazy, and that's not at all. Like, we have to take care of our mental health as the same way we take care about our teeth or our vision. You know, it's part of who we are. So mental health was also a present topic, a topic that was shared, and all the tools and the resources about mental health that were shared were super eye-opener for me.
Now we're going to go a little more local because the coming summit is going to be here in Montreal. And it's scheduled to take place in September. And it will feature notable guests such as Angela F. Williams, who's the president and CEO of United Way Worldwide. There's going to be lawyer and activist Kerry Kennedy, business leader Paul Pullman, Lord Michael Hastings, and Mark Tewksbury of the Canadian Olympic Committee, which you were mentioning earlier also, the Olympics. So what do you know about this upcoming summit? What can we expect from the Montreal summit?
Oh my God, like, I think people are very excited because for XYZ reason, COVID, etc., is the very first time after a long time ago that the summit it's outside Europe. Okay. The summit, like, normally jumps from one place to another. It was in 2016 in Ottawa, 2017 in Bogota, then it went to The Hague, to London, and we were supposed to go to Asia but the pandemic happened. So it's the very first time after a long that it is outside Europe. For sure, this has happened because of all the logistic situations that arise after COVID. And people are very excited to go outside Europe and go, in this case, to the Americas or coming to the Americas to have a summit with a different perspective, with a different cultural touch, with a different, like, I wouldn't say like cherry on top of the pie. And I think the Montreal community is doing a lot of things to have the best summit ever. One of the things that I can mention is that as it was announced, actually, is not confidential. It was announced 3 years ago. It was announced in the Manchester Summit, actually, that Montreal is going to have an extra agenda to speak about indigenous communities. Okay. And we are going to call this summit not only the One Young World 2024 Summit in Montreal, but Tiotaket, which is the original name of Montreal, the First Nations name, you know. Mm-hmm. So indigenous topic is going to be something very key for Montreal. And not only the local indigenous communities, but we're welcoming the topic of indigenous communities around the globe. The reconciliation with indigenous communities, the diversity, equity, and inclusion that we have to build around that. Mm-hmm. I think that is going to be one of the main topics of the summit. And I think the Montreal team is doing such an amazing job. People are very excited. My colleagues at One Young World, the One Young World ambassadors, coordinating ambassadors from other cities, other countries, they are always telling me, David, you guys are going to make the most impactful and the summit that everybody is looking forward to. So we have a huge commitment, if I may say.
Sweet. And aside from the I guess the reconciliation part, are there other kind of contextualized cases or topics that you're going to be approaching that are specific to
for sure. Montreal? Actually, the cases that or the plenary cases that are going to be addressed, they were released last week. Again, connected to the U.S. Sustainable Development Goals, as always. Sustainability will be addressed, health will be addressed, accessibility to healthcare, water, resources, food, etc., are normally topics that are addressed during the summit. So what I would recommend is, like, if anyone wants more information about the plenary challenges that are going to be addressed for the summit, to go to oneyoungworld.com. Also, it's very important to say that the list of guests is not final. The list of guest speakers is always evolving. So sometimes, like 2-3 days before the summit, someone confirms, and you have like big superstars attending the summit. And I'm not talking about like only artists or no, I'm talking about superstars like Mohamed Yunus, for example, Bob Geldof, that is always part of the summit, Olympic athletes, people that are driving change in multiple areas.
So earlier you were mentioning how, aside from the Olympics, One Young World is the event that hosts the most nations in one summit. And just like the Olympics, I feel like it's an event of such magnitude that it must have a ripple effect, locally. Sure. So what do you think are, for whenever a city is hosting the One Young World Summit, what would you say is the ripple effect that it could have on this community, and how does it translate into the relationships between different actors, so youth and political entities, community? Do you have any reflections on that?
Yeah, I think when the One Young World Summit goes to a city, it comes with a lot of benefits to the city as well. But it also comes with a commitment. What One Young World wants to create once it goes to different places is to kind of put its heritage in there. For example, Belfast, after a summit, they were mentioning that they're going to create youth programs for the people in Northern Ireland. They're going to have also scholarships for people to attend the summit to Montreal. The government in Belfast is doing things after the summit happened in intercity. And I think we as Montrealers will also have a commitment, because this is a summit that it's for the world, yes, but it's also for Montreal. It's also for Quebec, for Canada. And first things first, we will have the opportunity to share our culture with the world, to share la francophonie with the world, our bilingual culture here in Montreal, the Canada aspect, which is what people is looking forward to as well. And I do believe that the same way we will share who we are as community, as culture, as country, as province, etc., we have to get the best from the people that are attending to the summit. We have the people, our officials here in Canada, in Montreal as well, they have to be with eyes and ears open when this summit happens, to see what is happening in the world that we can adapt here in our city to have a better community. So that the One Young World Summit is not only for the people attending the summit, it's for the city host as well.
So that being said, what are some opportunities that Montrealers, Quebecers, Canadians could seize to be involved in this event?
Well, as mentioned before, I think being volunteers is for sure one opportunity.
Yeah.
The second opportunity is to be with eyes open about the scholarships for the summit. if you consider yourself as a young leader and you believe that you fit in the roles that the roles that the One Young World is looking forward to apply for scholarships. All the opportunities are up to date in oneyoungworld.com. The third one, if you want to get involved in the local community events, what I recommend is to send an email to canada@oneyoungworld.com, so that the new coordinating ambassador gathers the information and sends it to the team of the ULISM, because there are also small or big companies that are beginning to know that this summit is happening and they want to get involved. And for sure, ULISM can be the midpoint to kind of see what are the opportunities for these companies or entrepreneurs or allies to participate in the summit. So I think that is, like, if I may say, like the three routes: volunteering, attending to the summit through a scholarship, and getting in touch as part of the local community.
Excellent. Thank you. And thank you so much for taking the time again to being here with us today. I would like to remind you that the One Young World Summit will take place in Montreal from the 18th to the 21st of September of 2024. We invite you to consult the references provided to discover the event's programming and potential involvement that may interest you, just like David mentioned. This episode was produced by the Institut du Nouveau Monde and the Palais des Congrès de Montréal. Episodes of the INM podcast are available on our website at inm.qc.ca, as on all online listening platforms. Thank you.